Do you think UFOs, the paranormal, weird history, cryptozoology, and outsider art are pretty darn cool? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to High Strangeness with your host, Steve Berg.
The video version. Oh my goodness. Folks, welcome back to another episode of High Strangeness. I wonder if I'll always say it just like that. High Strangeness. You know, you get locked into saying it a certain way. Anyways, I'm going to try to workshop some new ways to say it starting on the next episode. But this one, we're keeping that. Folks, today I have on my new friend, Drew Edwards. And I'm going to tell you a little 411 about Drew. Drew Edwards is an award-winning comic book writer, horror film historian, music journalist, rock promoter, and showman extraordinaire. He is a Best of Austin winner, a two-time Ringo Award nominee, and a proud member of the PEN America Fellowship of Writers. Best known as the creator and writer of the long-time-running underground comic series Halloween Man, Edwards has spent 2 decades blending horror, humor, social commentary into cult favorite storytelling. Thousands tune in weekly to hear him on the acclaimed Castle of Horror podcast, where he serves as a regular cast member and a pop culture commentator. Ooh, I like this. Let's put a pin in that. I want to talk about that. Known in music circle as Hal and Drew Edwards, he has helped bridge the worlds of horror, comics, and Austin's iconic music scene. Through Halloween Man Productions, he founded the popular Punk vs. Rockabilly Showcase, a South by Southwest favorite that celebrates genre culture and independent music. Drew currently lives in Austin, Texas, with his wife, musician and activist Jamie. Is it Barr?
Barr.
Okay, and their daughter Luna Bella. Drew, just reading the bio, I can already tell. Like, wow, we'd be pretty good friends.
I'm getting a vibe here. I think this is the start of something beautiful.
Yeah, you seem like you have a deep appreciation of the underground culture and music and art, and buddy, that is what I live for. So, are you from Austin?
No, I'm actually from. You know, I think if you live in Austin, what you quickly find is there's not actually it's a city of transplants. It's
like
it's
LA.
A lot like LA in that respect. It's like the Texas LA. I'm sure I'm probably going to get flamed online for saying that.
I think that's true, though. I think it's true.
I do
simply
too,
because there's a lot of LA people who move there.
That is
in the
also
early
true.
2000s,
but I'm from a very rural. I am a Texas boy. I'm born and raised Texas boy. And I grew up in a rural area of Texas called Possum Kingdom. It's a lake. There's lots of little towns nestled around the lake. What the town I grew up in is a town called Graham. Go Steers. And so I had kind of a rural upbringing. I was the only kid into punk rock in my entire town, which is unsurprising because again it's very small. But what I did get is that sort of wonderful kind of without the sewer clown, but Stephen King kid, upbringing of small town America and all that entails. So
I mean, I did not grow up in a small town. I grew up in Omaha, but a lot of my relatives were from small towns in Kansas and stuff like that, and I have this deep love affair with small towns. For some reason, when I think of the dream place to see a UFO or have a wild Fortean experience, I always imagine in a small town.
I think that seems to be. I mean, when you watch a lot of I'm gonna date myself, in Search of or Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. It does seem to be that's where the weird stuff really happens. You don't have too many Bigfoot sightings in the middle of Austin. Although I'm sure if I looked hard enough,
you might find one.
Yeah. But it's something about the wide open spaces, or in my case, because where I grew up, it's actually quite woodsy and swampy. there's just something about that I think lends an atmosphere of the strange to it. And
well, there's like I mean, like this word gets thrown around so much these days, but there is a liminality to small towns. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just like they're so scary at night. I'm terrified of them. Yeah, I like find myself pulled and attracted to it. Like I know for a fact I have to live in a small town one day at some point in my life.
I can pick some out in Texas for you if you wanna move. There's some great small towns around Austin, especially if you're a food person.
I am,
which I know you are. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well,
try Lockhart. Lockhart is the barbecue capital of Texas, which is arguably makes it the barbecue capital of the world.
Ooh,
and
bold statement.
Yeah, it's but true.
Oh dang!
Yeah,
shade thrown, Kansas City.
I like Kansas City, but just to be clear, I like barbecue from all over the world.
Yes.
But Texas is, not just me saying this, quite famous for its barbecue.
It is.
But Lockhart is absolutely charming. It is actually, if I had enough money to get a house down there, which I don't currently, I would move there.
It's a bougie small town.
It's an oddly hip small town. I think because of its vicinity to Austin, they have they have more music venues than you would think a small town would have. They have a horror themed bookstore called Happy Haunt, which is in the basement of a pizzeria.
What?
Yeah,
you weren't lying. This place is for me.
It's got kind of the best of both worlds, which is why I kind of want to live there, because I like you, because and partly because I grew up in a small town. I kind of miss that small town life, but I'm selfish and I don't want to give up the stuff that I like about living in a city. So I want to be able to go out into the woods in my underwear and hunt, but also have good pizza. It's very selfish,
right? It's the reasons for me not moving to a small town are so stupid. Like, well, how would I get sushi or Thai food? It really is food based for now, But eventually, a lot, at least in Nebraska, a lot of these small towns are being like, a lot of like Gen Z and young millennials are moving there and buying houses because they're cheap and the property taxes are very small, and then they're driving to 40 minutes to work in Omaha. But I'm like, right on. And they're kind of like, they're now starting to bring like Thai restaurants and breweries and like wine bars. I'm like, I like this move for young people, man. I think it's great. It's like, dude, you're priced out of cities, go to a small town and kind of like with your buddies and like turn it into an awesome place. Look at us. Okay, gosh. Well, we're gonna get to the weird. We're gonna get to the weird stuff, I promise. But I do want to mention just a couple of food things.
Let's talk about food. I'm there.
I mean, look. Just a couple things. What I love about Austin is I know Franklin's is very popular for the brisket, right?
Franklin's is good,
and Franklin's lives up to the hype. However, I will say my favorite is the Salt Lick.
Salt Lick is good. Terry Black's is good. County Line, underrated. Great if you go to the one by the lake. Great view. You get to see some giant turtles and some giant catfish as well. Maybe if you're lucky, you might get to see an alligator every once in a while. They get one of those. It's right on Lake Travis. It's beautiful. There a lot of great not just barbecue. We actually, Austin's got great tacos. Obviously,
the breakfast taco was. I was going to mention the breakfast taco. I mean, tacos of all kinds, but the first breakfast, like real breakfast taco I ever had, was in Austin, like in 2002. And I swear to God, I was there for like a week for a job. So it was like, you got to try a breakfast taco. I went to like a little truck, got a breakfast taco. Then I started just eating breakfast tacos, and I had it every single day. And they're so special.
It's joy, man. Putting potato on a taco. It's just it's the best way to wake up. Yeah,
it works. It
you
just
get your carbs,
works.
You get your protein. Shoots you right out of bed.
God, man, damn it! That sounds so good. Drew, you have created or have been, you've been involved with the comic book Halloween Man for a long time, and you sent me like a little, page through preview, and first off, the art's incredible. But I really enjoyed this. Would you mind telling the listeners about this book? By the way, do we in the business, do we call it a book, or do we call it a comic book? Or a comic?
I mean, all technically are correct.
Okay.
I prefer comic book over graphic novel because I am lowbrow like that. But it is all technically correct. So I mean, if you go where you're feeling it.
Okay.
But okay, so Halloween Man is best described as the weird adventures of a zombie superhero and his sexy mad scientist girlfriend. They battle everything from Nazi vampires, the Loch Ness monster, the headless horseman,
hell yeah,
various flesh-eating zombies, ghouls, ghosts, cryptids, of course, and they also have a beautiful Beauty and the Beast type love story along the way. It's funny, it's heartfelt, it's occasionally very violent. My elevator pitch at conventions is think Evil Dead meets Fantastic Four.
That's great.
Yeah, I know it's weird. People who are into weird things should like it.
Yeah, and we are all into weird things over at High Strangeness HQ. Let me tell you, we love the weird. Bring it on. Well, what a wonderful blender mix of like genres. That's like right up my alley. So I know when we were kind of going back and forth on email, but you mentioned that you have kind of like a long love affection with the paranormal. So it sounds like to me, you mentioned cryptids, of course, that the paranormal has been important in informing at least this work, Halloween Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But is it a general kind of strain that goes through like a lot of your work?
I have always been into weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was a weird kid. Can I cuss?
Of course, yeah. Go. Whole hog.
I was the kid who drawing skulls on my binder. In junior high. As far back as I can remember, the very first memory that I have is actually of monsters. Like if I try to remember back as far as I can, the very first thing that I can remember is watching the movie Them. The giant ant movie with my dad, on the couch, and that's like the very first thing I can remember. And when you're in a small town and you're watching all these monster movies, of course you start to kind of fill in the blanks and go, well, I wonder if there are real monsters. So I would start to check out books from the library that were about cryptids, about paranormal phenomena, about things like that. And eventually, my mom just kind of relented and she started buying me like Time Life books on the subject. Oh yeah,
buddy, those Time Life books were massive for me.
I wish I still had them.
Me too.
Ghostbusters, of course, was, as a kid who grew up in the 80s,
of course,
Ghostbusters was formative. Like I up until I realized that was not a job that you could actually have. When people would tell me, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I want to be a Ghostbuster. And, I did debate, trying to be a cryptozoologist or a paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's some stuff about me, which I think we'll get into later, that would make me considered kind of an unreliable witness, shall we say. But, so I didn't end up going that route, and I ended up going into the route of writing, fiction and writing, horror fiction or dark fantasy, weird fiction, whatever you want to call it. I started writing about monsters because monsters are what I love. Monsters are what speak to me.
Right.
And so that is not only informed, Halloween Man, it's informed every project I've ever done because, I want to uplift monsters, if that makes sense. Like
it does.
I feel like that to be a monster is kind of a noble thing, and the monsters are always who I've rooted for, and even with Halloween Man, a lot of that, with that character, I would watch these monster movies, and at the end of it, the monster would always get killed. And a lot of times, especially in like old monster movies, the monster just wanted a girl or something. They wanted to be accepted. And
Right.
so I was like, I want to write a story where the monster is the hero and the monster gets the girl, and that's really sort of the simplistic root of it.
That's a great spin. While it's simplistic, it's wildly original. Like I mean, like I think like actually taking simple concepts, like and then paying deep tribute to them is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Well, it's funny because like I remember when I was a kid, and I still feel like this today. But I remember like when it would be like 98 and humid, like out. And I used to, as a kid, I'm not joking. Like I'm not trying to sound like a weirdo. I used to like one of the first things I would think about is like, wow. Two things were in my head. It's like, wow, it's going to be really sweaty at baseball practice later, and two, what a horrible day for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The poor cryptids. I mean, like, what do they do? And hopefully they have a clean water source. And I would think about it. So I still think about that to this day. My wife and I were like taking a hike like 3 weeks ago. There was a heat wave. Terrible time for a hike, but we tried to go in the morning. It was miserable. But the whole time I was like, God damn, what a rough day for a Bigfoot. Hopefully they find like a sewer or like, an abandoned pool. I feel like we're not thinking about that enough as a society.
We should be taking care of Bigfoot. I mean, he's arguably an endangered species. I think.
Right.
I think there's not enough. Well, I mean, I guess to a degree. I mean, the Loch Ness Monster's on the endangered species list, isn't it? Like, so I guess there's some thought to that.
Yeah.
This thing was like, well, maybe it doesn't exist, but just in case it does, don't shoot it.
Right. Well, you're also working on a new comic book called The Matron. The Matron?
The Matron, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is very, very. It's a different vibe than Halloween Man. It's a bit more serious. There's still kind of a gallows humor about it, but it's more of a slasher thing. It takes place in the blizzard that Texas had in 2021. And it follows the murderous rampage of a elderly woman who is also a cannibalistic serial killer, and she may or may not be possessed by a Slavic winter goddess. And
my!
Actually, a lot of the stuff that we just talked about sort of the gentrification of small towns kind of plays into it because, excuse me, one of the way the Matron came to life is I was hired actually to write a pitch for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre comic, and the comic never ended up seeing the light of day. A lot of, if you hang in the comic book industry, a lot of what you find is that you'll end up accumulating unrealized projects, and you just kind of have to roll with that.
Same with the TV movie business, buddy. I have about 28 unfinished screenplays in my in a hard drive.
Well, there you go. There you go. So I guess that's kind of just the path of a creative, but
I think so.
What ended up what the pitch was what happens to Leatherface when he's an old man, and there's a Starbucks next to the Chainsaw family's murder house. And I was talking about this to my buddy David Bowles, who's I have a co-writer on The Matron, and because I was frustrated because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that Netflix made was kind of similar to my pitch, and I was like, oh man, like that really ticks me off. It just kind of shows that I was onto something. And he was like, well, it doesn't have to be about Leatherface. We can just make up our own slasher, and it kind of went from there. The next thing you know, we were really kind of fleshing out this fictitious town in the Texas Hill Country, but also really diving deep into like Czech folklore, Texas folklore, all kinds of things. And David is actually an expert on Mesoamerican folklore. So
wow, interesting.
You actually should consider having him on your show.
Yeah. We'll talk after this. He
is a fascinating individual and far smarter than my hillbilly ass. But I'm really proud with how it came out. But it also it allows me to do different things than Halloween Man, because Halloween Man, ultimately there's this sort of hope for the outsider that's baked into the concept. Like it's not a cynical comic book, whereas I would describe myself as a cynic by nature. And the matron sort of allows me to oscillate into that worldview a little bit more, like have a little bit more a negative outlook that I don't necessarily get to explore in Halloween Man, even though they're both horror fiction in a broad sense. I think there is a mean-spiritedness to the matron that I find cathartic. Not that I don't find Halloween Man cathartic, but it's cathartic in different ways.
It's like I mean, like I wonder like if psychology comes into play. It's like you're writing from the id, maybe, like or like I mean, like, or like maybe it's like this is authored by your shadow self, as Carl Jung would say. But like
maybe, but the fact that I have a co-writer on it, I think might throw some mud in the tires of that. But although David,
perhaps
David is largely known as a young adult author, so it could be also that he's working through some stuff as well.
Well, Drew, I would say there's a lot of things happening in the world right now that would make a creative a little bit cynical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I'm conscious of keeping in check, because I am a hopeful, positive person. I'm a humanist. I believe in the power of people, and however, I can feel that getting crushed sometimes.
Not for nothing. Also, a wide and varied food source, people. So if it comes to that, if I have to pivot from the career of author to post-apocalyptic warlord, there you go.
You're prepping yourself, because you never know.
You
never know.
Lord Humongous could be a career goal.
You'd be on the right side, like they probably have more water and, definitely gasoline.
And I also get to wear fetish gear as outerwear. So that's right. I guess depending on your worldview, that's a style upgrade.
That's exactly right. It's like everyone in a Mad Max movie raided like an S&M shop, like in the Upper East Side, like in 1978.
And it doesn't really make sense that they're walking around in like heat, wearing all this leather, and yet they are. Like you talked about a bad day for Bigfoot, but like, is there a good day in the wasteland to be wearing leather?
I feel like they're just like whatever, man. Like if I, it's a grim existence in the heat, in the wasteland. I would tell you that much. But I want to ask you this, because, sorry. Okay. When I think about Texas, it's weird because it's a massive state, and I know there's a ton of lore. But I was just right before the podcast started, I was like, what are the like two Texas like manifestations of high strangeness that I think of? I think of the Levelland UFO flap, which I think was in the 50s, maybe 60s. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while since I looked into the one, but it is a famous one with some pretty good like evidence and a lot of witness testimony. And then there's the East Texas Wild Man, which is kind of like Texas's version of
Skunk Gate, Bigfoot,
But Texas, I mean, does Texas have? I mean, this is a dumb question because I'm assuming the answer is a resounding yes. But does Texas have like a good history of high strangeness and folklore and its own mythology?
Oh yeah, Texas has. I mean, what do you want? As far like we have extant dinosaurs, we have UFOs.
Wait, whoa! You have modern dinosaurs?
We have modern dinosaurs in Texas. If you go to Big Bend, There is actually two. Technically, one's a pterosaur, but they have what they call Big Berg, which was a depending on your description, because some people described it as an ape with wings,
Yes.
which is a little more Mothman-y. But a lot of people described it as a pterodactyl. So there's Big Berg. Then in Big Bend, there's one of my personal favorite local cryptids. There's the mountain boomer, which is like a miniature T-Rex, which people will see kind of going across the roadsides at night, and it supposedly makes a howling sound, kind of like a wolf.
Buddy.
And yeah, so like just right down the road. Sorry, you should I stick a pin in?
No. I just want to say, like, so the pterodactyl type creature and the little mini T-Rex, which, my God, who doesn't want one? I mean,
Yeah, right?
I would love to have one in the backyard, as long as it wouldn't eat my cats. But are there modern sightings, or is this like kind of like, you know, like, was there like a flap of sightings for these things,
So
or is it
if
just
I'm
kind of like?
if I'm remembering the mountain boomer stuff, there was a flap of sightings in the late '80s, early '90s. I could be wrong about the dates. I don't remember offhand what the most contemporary sightings are.
Right.
But just the fact that there were dinosaur sightings in Texas makes me happy.
Me too.
I feel like if there were to be dinosaurs in modern America, Texas is a good place for them because we're so big and we have basically every kind of ecosystem that you can imagine. So
We
like,
got a lot of oil there too. It checks out that they would still be chilling out
dinosaur,
there.
maybe they're ghost dinosaurs because I mean,
Buddy,
when you think about it, oil is just dinosaur ectoplasm, really.
I love the idea of ghost dinosaurs. First off, like if we see ghost people, like why can't there be ghosts?
Where are the ghost dinosaurs?
And
Where are
there is a precedent for ghost animals. I mean, John Tenney talks about he created a ghost dog accidentally, and he regrets doing it, but he did. Now people see sightings of this ghost dog at some place. So there is a precedent. I mean, like, you know, like who's to say that Bigfoot isn't kind of like a ghost of like Australopithecus or one of those ancient, you know,
a ghost caveman or some such.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so speaking of Bigfoot, there is a history of Bigfoot sightings in Texas, and in fact, right up the way from Austin in Round Rock, Texas, there is what they call the Hairy Man, which is their local Bigfoot. Okay. And they even have a Bigfoot, they have a Hairy Man festival every year. You know, of course, you mentioned, you know, I think you actually had an episode on this, but there's the Dogman Triangle, so we have Dogman sightings.
Do you know?
Yeah, we have Dogman sightings.
That's right, of course, Aaron Deese, who I had on from Small Town Monsters, he wrote a book about it and made a documentary, and like, there's actually a lot of Dogman sightings in.
Yeah. And we have Hogzilla. We have giant boars. So. And that's just off the top of my head. I mean, there's a lot of monsters. There's a lot of ghosts. In my hometown, in Possum Kingdom, there's a rock formation called Hell's Gate, which is supposedly haunted by the ghost of a fur trader who screwed over the local native tribes and was killed in the center of Hell's Gate. And sometimes people say they see his ghost. So. You know, we have virtually every legend, you know, that you can think of. In fact, a lot of the times in Halloween Man, because it takes place in Texas, I try to draw upon that stuff. Like in the new collection that's coming out, I have the Donkey Lady, which is a fairly famous ghost or cryptid, depending on who you ask. Out of San Antonio, and I also have El Muerto, the headless horseman of Texas.
Wait, going back to the Donkey Lady. Sorry, I can't let you just breeze by that.
No. Sorry,
I'm
talking real fast.
Well, no. There's a lot to get through, man. Texas is large and in charge. So, tell me about the Donkey Lady.
So the Donkey Lady there's a bridge on the outskirts of San Antonio, and supposedly if you go there around midnight and turn your lights off. The donkey lady will walk across the top of your car. People record seeing footprints. She also allegedly has a body count. I don't think I believe that, but she axe murders people. And actually, the one of the proposed origin stories is that she was a deformed woman who looked like a donkey and was killed with an axe. You know, it's one of your kind of your classic like sort of cropsy type you know, urban legends, but the fact that she looks like a donkey, I think, adds a particular kind of frontier flavor to it that I find very visually striking.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have made notes like for this. Like I'm pulling off of my.
No, you're killing it. You're doing great.
I'm pulling from memory, and I'm sure there's going to be some of your listeners who are going to be like, actually, and
the donkey was missing a leg. Donkey.
Yeah.
No. We're fine. We're not. We don't have to be. And also, when discussing folklore and these things, I don't think there's always like one answer.
No, there's not. Folklore.
We're
Folklore. Yeah, folklore is you know it changes shape, and also you know with unknown phenomenon, it's unknown. So
absolutely. Yeah. That's always my feeling when somebody is certain about any of this stuff. I'll always be like, check, please. You know.
You're doing it right. You're doing it right.
Yeah, I think so. Well, you know, I want to circle back to Texas weirdness. But I want to make sure we have time to talk about some of your personal experiences. And
yeah.
If you don't mind sharing them. And like, you know, I can cut this out if you don't want me to read this quote. But you said something that I thought was fascinating in one of our email exchanges. Do you mind if I read the quote?
No.
You could. I can cut it out if you don't. If
Believe me, I advocate for myself. So if it's something that makes me uncomfortable, I will let you know.
Okay, good. I thought it really was super interesting to me. So you said, I look at the paranormal stuff through a very personal psychological lens. To me, cryptids and ghosts aren't just creepy. They're reflections of the hidden, often fractured parts of our minds. Ooh, can we unpack this a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. As discussed through our email exchanges, I am someone who I prefer the term neurodivergent, but for the sake of brevity, you know, I will say I live with various different mental illnesses. I don't actually like that term because it sounds like I have a cold or something. Right. And you know what how I prefer to think of it is my brain just works differently because of experiences that I've had, some of them not great, admittedly, but you know, I have the major things that I have are dissociative identity disorder, which is more commonly known as multiple personality disorder, and you know, post-traumatic stress disorder. Right. Some of that is rooted in childhood trauma. That I would prefer not to get into that because this is a fun.
You don't have to.
Yeah. This is a fun show and it could bum everybody out. Right. I also was in a car accident when I was 19 that killed my twin. So I have a you know, and that's the abridged version. But I have a kind of a roadmap of trauma, but what that has done is it sort of rewrites, you know, the way my brain works. And I'm also shared real estate. You know, I share my body with an altar. And, you know, the way we collectively look at the world is unique. You know, when I think about monsters, when I think about paranormal phenomena, I always think about it through this sort of psychological lens. Like, how do I experience things? You know, like, you know, would this stimulus mean to me?
Right.
And for, but they come around to that, going back into the way this reflects into my work. Monsters are never monsters. They're they mean something. Like either they're a reflection of trauma, they're a reflection of life experience, a reflection of emotion. And as much as this is kind of a personal thing for me, I think it's also kind of a true experience for a lot of people, because I mean, like, okay, for example, what is a ghost but something that happened that's lingering around? That's not dissimilar than having post-traumatic stress disorder. You have something that haunts you.
Right.
You've lived through something that follows you around. And this the dissociative identity disorder, it's a bit like being any one of these creatures from mythology, pop culture, or folklore that have a certain duality to them, and especially in my situation. But I feel like that gives me a very distinct, the rub of it is this. Like, I would love to go out and do Bigfoot hunts and ghost hunts and things like this, but
Right.
because of a lot of the stuff that I am saying, I feel like I would almost be instantly discredited as a witness, because for one, I'm somebody that's had hallucinations in the past and things like that, and they would be like, well, he blacks out on his own when he dissociates. So I would not want anything that I experience to not count as evidence. But at the same time, I also think, because my brain is wired differently, that perhaps I could have an openness to strange phenomena that maybe neurotypical people might not have.
Right.
So I do think in a weird way it's kind of a shame that a serious investigator might think of me as a hindrance rather than a help.
I would say that, I mean, like, if those are the kinds of groups that I wouldn't want to be associated with, like a group like, or that's not, I mean, I should say, I'll rephrase, that's not the kind of group I want to go exploring with, who excludes anyone for any reason. Like, that to me is also just like bad methodology. So I'd be pleased to go out with you.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
let's go looking for Bigfoot one day.
Okay,
It's a
buddy.
date.
Yeah, I find myself in Austin every once in a while. I'll definitely hit you up. We'll go look for
We'll
hairy
get some barbecue. We'll go look for Bigfoot, and then we'll have
Sounds
tacos in the
good.
morning.
Sounds
It'll be
so
great.
good.
It's a date.
Sounds so good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just
No,
wanted to interject that.
I think I was starting to repeat myself anyway. So
But well, like and I know you again from the email exchanges. You have had some paranormally. I don't know. I've never said that. But kind of high strange experiences. Do you
Yeah.
mind discussing that and how you've integrated that into your life?
So I live. So first off, I live with my wife, who is, a practicing witch. So there's that aspect of my life. She calls herself a kitchen witch, and
What's that mean? I love
she
that
cooks
term.
she cooks with intention. She does her spell work through cooking.
Excuse me? I have never heard of that. I'm sorry, I'm shifting in my chair, and that means I'm very excited. I'm literally writing that down like, well, I need to order a book on kitchen witchery because
You should.
I want to be a kitchen warlock.
But go for it.
Can you explain that to me? Like, what exactly that means? So it's in cooking with intention, but can you go a little deeper on that?
Yeah. So I'll actually just give you an example of a protection ritual that we were just doing, which involved excuse me.
No.
Cloves and cinnamon, because we were doing, because I have a book coming out. We were trying to put something out that could potentially help with book sales, and cinnamon and cloves are associated with abundance. So aside from eating cinnamon in our oatmeal every morning, we were washing our hands with cinnamon, and we used. And I could be getting some of this wrong, so when Jamie eventually listens to this, she may go, no, that's what that was for. But there was a lemon with salt and a beeswax candle in it, and we put it. We wrote down what our goals were on bay leaves, and then we burned it with the beeswax candle. Then we put the salt on our hands and washed that off, and then proceeded to wash with the cinnamon, because cinnamon symbolizes abundance. That's not something necessarily that has to do with the eating part of it, but it is also a lot of using ingredients for food in spellcraft, which, like I said, she does a lot. Like she puts what she wants out there. We actually thought we had something that might have moved into our apartment, which was another reason why we were doing a ritual. She I was actually a little bit more skeptical on this until something happened to me. But she kept saying that she would be hanging out with a baby folding laundry in our bedroom, and the laundry would get knocked over, and it wasn't her and it wasn't the baby. And then she said that she kept seeing like a hunched over old woman out of the corner of our eye in one of our bathrooms.
Okay.
And, so she was like, I think, somebody is attracted to, like a spirit of some sort is probably attracted to the fact that we have, a young baby here. And she was like, I want to, burn some sage, which is of course the classic, and put some salt around the corners of the rooms. But I want to do like a protection thing. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty good to go with this, even when I'm skeptical on things.
Sure.
But then I'm so mad at myself that I mopped after this. But like, so I take the baby for walks, during the day, usually in the early afternoon when it's not too hot, because again, Texas.
Yeah.
And when I came back, there were dirty footprints all over our living room, and they were too small to be my feet. They did not I'm not going to get into the reason, but they do not match my wife's footprints, and they were too big to be the baby's footprints, and they were all over the place. My wife was not home, and I knew it would be upsetting to her, so I mopped. And then later on I just told her anyway, but I was like, I think you might be right about this ghost thing, because I have no explanation whatsoever for these footprints. She's actually more skeptical about the footprints than I am. She was like, I think those are somehow your footprints. I was like, my feet are huge. Talk about Bigfoot. I have very large feet. These were more like the feet of an old woman. And so I have no explanation on that. So like the very next day we were like, let's get some sage, let's start prepping this. But that's actually, this is a high strangeness scoop, because that's actually the most recent paranormal thing that has happened to me.
That the footprints is pretty unsettling, though. I mean, whether it's paranormal,
some, Conjuring movie shit is what that is.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I'm getting into dumb. I mean, I just have to satisfy my curiosity. But were they like shoed footprints, like, or
No,
was it like
bare feet? Bare feet.
Oh, even scarier, man.
Yeah, bare feet. And they were just like kind of dirt, dust. We've put down cushions in our living room because of the baby, because we have concrete floors. So we want to make sure she can crawl around, unabated. And they were all over the cushions. And, I had already just mopped, so it was damp in there. And that's actually why I had chosen to take a walk with her. And so there shouldn't have been anything. Like that floor should have been spotless. But when I came back, it was just like pop, 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 pop everywhere. And yeah, like that actually happened basically last week. And, my wife actually has had more paranormal experiences than I have. Like she's a bit of a magnet for it. She even has prophetic dreams and things
Really?
like that. Yeah.
Is this something that she is like wanting, maybe is the wrong word, but like trying to conjure with,
No.
no, so it's just
No, it's not. I wouldn't even say it's a focal point of her life. My wife, she's a rockabilly musician. She's
oh, no
a
way,
music,
that's awesome.
yeah. She's a, she does pinup modeling. She's also a music teacher. So most of her life is actually music, and so like the sort of paranormal, occult part of her life I would actually say, if you were to ask her, she'd be like, yeah, that's actually a really small part of who I am, but it does happen pretty frequently with her. Like she'll dream about something and then it happens, or like she actually dreamt about me apparently for years before we actually met. And
Really?
so yeah, like, so she's now you're probably thinking that she's the one you should have had on your show, but
no, but it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, no, but it's like you found each other though.
well, I mean, we found each other through great odds, because she's from New York and I'm from Texas, and she was on tour with one of her bands, and that's how we connected. But she's a cool lady, and the way my relationship with ghosts and spirits is odd, because I usually see after effects and things. Like a good example of is we were staying in a cabin in Colorado once. And
we're in Colorado, just curious.
Denver. In Denver. Well,
okay,
technically
yeah, sure.
Up in the mountains above Denver, but
okay.
We it was actually on Halloween night. My wife and I were, I had done a horror convention for the comic book, and then it had gotten to be kind of late, so we were like, well, we have about a 30-minute drive, so we should get a move on. And then we went to this cabin, and it was a friend of ours that was letting us stay there, and I kept hearing things slamming in the kitchen. So finally Jamie was like, well, you should go in there and see if there's not like a raccoon that somehow got in that house. Like, cause like
right.
Jamie's, I'm a country boy. Jamie's, she's a glamorous sophisticate. She's not gonna deal with the local wildlife. That's
You're the one that handles the wild rodents in the family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I go in there, and all of the cabinet doors are open. I don't see a raccoon, so I go back to the bedroom that we were staying in, and suddenly slam, slam. And like the next day we were like, nope, we're gonna stay in Denver proper. I don't know what was going on, but the thing is like, I never saw anything. I heard things. I saw the after effect. So I do sometimes wonder if there are ghosts. Maybe it was just a raccoon, but if there are ghosts, if because of everything I have going on, maybe they're like, no, not that guy. Because my wife, like, she'll see things. I just as I was just saying, like, she's a little bit more open to it. But for some reason, like with the footprints, like, I often just see the after effects of things, and I do think they're like, well, that guy, I don't know that I really want to bug that guy, because he's already got a lot going on up in his head. So let's just like, we'll leave some doors open, but we'll leave some footprints, but let's not actually appear to that guy. Right.
The after effects are enough. That'll satisfy him.
Yeah.
Well, that is very, very interesting. Now, is in terms of, so your wife isn't like actively like trying to like m- seek out this stuff, right? She,
No.
in fact, it almost sounds like she's like, ugh, this is a little inconvenient. I'd rather this not happen.
No, I mean she certainly doesn't want ghosts or spirits in our apartment or anything
Right.
like that.
Fair.
You know, like
And that's
I
fair.
mean, look, we're kind of a spooky vibes couple, so maybe
Mhm.
we we look like we'd be the sort of people that would like, oh, Gomez and Morticia here want a ghost in their apartment, but you know no, she doesn't really. Jamie wants a harmonious life, and like I she just certainly doesn't want anything disturbing our child. So
Yeah, for sure.
no, she's not doing conjurations or anything like that. Most of the magic that she does is very positively oriented. It's about what can you do to feel. It's almost like health food magic. I mean, I hate
Yeah.
this. This is like, what can you do to feel good? What can you do to get your life pointed in the northern direction of positivity?
Yeah.
Like, and Jamie's a very positive, dare I say, perky person. So
Uh-huh.
like, no, she's not like out like conjuring ghouls or demons or specters or anything like that. Like, it's not something she wants in her life. It just seems to happen around her a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
And and again, she was concerned because sometimes spirits are attracted to children.
Right.
Speaking of which,
Mm.
vamp for a second. I'm going to go check on our kid right now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Go enjoy.
I'll be right back.
Tell your kid I said hi. Oh, folks. Well, it's just you and I right now. I just, well, sometimes, you're like, oh, I missed breakfast. I woke up a little late, or I drank too much coffee and suppressed my appetite. I just did a little breakfast for lunch, and I'll tell you what I did. I had half an avocado. I spread that right on a nice piece of toasted sourdough with some lovely tomatoes from my garden. Put a little salt and pepper on that. And then I had 2 eggs over easy. Dipping that toast right in that eggs. It was a wonderful lunch. In fact, I'm almost like, do I have breakfast for dinner tonight? Breakfast is always right. Breakfast for dinner is fun.
Breakfast for dinner is always the right choice. I love breakfast food. Still out
It
like
is.
a light. Still snoozing away. So
Absolutely.
we are good.
Well, I'm a big diner guy. I love diners of all kinds, especially when I'm like traveling on the road for work or something like that. I will always like find out what the best diner is in town, and I'm gonna get the breakfast first. Like that's just me. That's just who I am.
Unfortunately, I would say what was our best diner recently got eminent domain out of existence. So,
Oh,
yeah, the only like the diners that are left in Austin are kind of more bougie.
yeah.
They cost too much to be a proper diner. To me,
Right.
a diner needs to be cheap.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, like, look, do I like bougie diner food? Of course I do, but I don't always want to pay $28 for a breakfast.
Chicken and waffles should not be $30.
I don't think so either.
That's,
I don't think
that's,
so either.
That's
But Taco Bell shouldn't be $15 for like a lunch either. I mean, like
No.
everything's so. Oh, don't get me started,
too
Drew.
expensive.
It is. It is. I mean, like we're all gonna be eating beans and rice here pretty soon. Which honestly, I don't mind. I'm a big beans and rice guy.
Beans and rice is great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I buy 25-pound bags of rice and 50-pound bags of beans. I'm ready for the wasteland, dude. It's so cheap though. It's a cheap way to do it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Well, where do you like, switching gears a little bit to things seen in the sky and landing in fields? Are you into UFOs and UFO ephemera? Does do UFOs creep into your work and into your life?
Every now and then, I'm not as into. So this was actually a conversation I was having on Castle of Horror the other day because we were actually reviewing The Legend of Boggy Creek. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's almost a synchronicity. You said that I literally just watched that movie for
So
the
good.
first time in my life.
Oh, that's a comfort food movie for me. I love that movie.
It was so good. It's so.
Yeah.
It's actually like I was telling my friend. I was like, that movie is very hip. It's very artfully done. The way they're using real witnesses as actors and the way
Yeah.
they had like these songs about the characters. Mr. Crabtree.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was blown away.
It's
And
good.
I thought
It's
the
good
photography
shit.
was beautiful. It is good shit.
It's
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, no,
but,
no,
like,
no. But you know, the thing about UFOs. This is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
UFOs to me almost are not paranormal phenomena. Like, because I am so certain that UFOs are real and that
Mhm.
aliens are real. Because I think you look up at the sky, and that's like a bunch of real estate, and you would have to be stupid to think that there's nothing else out there. Plus,
Right.
you know, we have like government officials now doing like testimony about UFOs. So I'm like, UFOs are real. Let's
Yeah.
just stick a pin in that, accept it. So like now, like my thing is like I'm more into like the weirder, you know, almost less likely to be weird stuff. Like I think I talked about this in an email with you. I have been all about the Loveland Frogman the last few
Oh,
months.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the Loveland Frogman is great. Yeah, you were referring to the episode I did with Ashley Hilt, who's like
Yeah.
a wonderful historian of Ohio, Fortiana. The Loveland Frogman is one of the great cryptids of the 20th century. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's kind of where I'm at, because like you know, I want that stuff that is just so out there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a you know, like I said, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I saw Close Encounters, I watched the X-Files, you know, all that stuff. So of course, yes, UFOs are awesome. You
Yeah.
know, I love the imagery of UFOs and
Me
little
too.
green men, and I
Me
went
too.
on a kick after watching Hellier, you know, a few
Mm-hmm.
years back, where I was all about like the Hopkinsville goblins and all that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that I am an expert on UFOs. You know, like I do know
No one is,
um
by the way. No, like no one
that
is.
is true.
If they call themselves that, you could be like an expert in the history of UFOs. But other than that, like there ain't no expert in any of this shit.
I'm not a UFO historian.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
lean more cryptids and you know, I'm a dinosaur nut. I'm actually a big really into like actual paleontology. So like
Hmm.
my favorite type of cryptids are inevitably the ones that seem like they're leftovers from the prehistoric past, even though those do seem, you know, the more you learn about paleontology, the less you can, unless we're gonna go woo woo with it and go ghost dinosaurs. Um but like you know, those are inevitably my favorite, because I just like the flavor of like I always, you know, ever since I first saw King Kong, I
Yeah.
always just wanted to be like going through the woods or going through the swamp or going somewhere and just run across the lost world. Like something
Right.
about that is just like really, even though it's like a dangerous situation, like you might get eaten or something, but I love that idea of there just being like a pocket of prehistoric animals out there somewhere.
I love it too. I mean, that's why I've always been like fascinated. I don't really like have I don't think there's a whole lot of like reality to this, but I do
No.
love I love stories about subterranean worlds.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, like
Hollow
like
Earth.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, Hollow Earth, the Daros and the Taros, the Richard Shaver stuff. Like, I love it as like a storyline in a narrative and folklore. Like, I think it's some of the most interesting and compelling, not compelling like artistically for me. Like, because I mean, like I think like it's funny, Drew. Like, so many guests I have on this show, I find out either they're artists and I know that going in and they love this stuff a lot, but it seems that creative people are definitely, to me, I shouldn't say definitely, but to me, feel very attracted to the strange and unusual.
I think you are 100% right. I think you know, a lot of the people that I know, like, my wife's in the music scene,
Hmm.
and you know, a lot of the people that I know from the music scene, or people who make comics and stuff like that, they're also into the occult or paranormal
Yeah,
phenomena or UFOs, or
right.
you know,
It's all
there's
the same to me, to be honest. Like, it's all almost like,
Oh, I agree
yeah,
with
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know, 100%, because there is a God, there's the idea that, and that UFOs tie back to the Fae.
Hmm.
Like there's all the talk about lake monsters and tying them back to dragons and things
Yeah.
like that. So, it's the monsters of our time.
Right.
And like something you say a lot on the show, and it's something that I really appreciate. It doesn't really matter if this stuff is real or not, because the stories have value.
Yeah. They do, and they impact our life. They impact us culturally. I mean, like without a doubt, whether people like that or not, it's just true. Mythology and folklore are very important to
That being
the
said,
human story.
I'm like 95% certain that Bigfoot is real, and I'm 100% certain that that aliens are real.
I love it. I love it.
Those are hills I'm prepared to die on.
Right. Well, and the thing is that going back to what you were saying earlier about, I really resonate when you were talking about how the personal experience and how I think personal interpretation of whatever the greater phenomenon is of all this stuff, or even if they're individually separate phenomenon, I do think the personal experience and like finding out how it affects witnesses. Does it change their life, or do they integrate it into their own like story? Or do they push it off aside and just trudge forward life and say, "Well, that happened. That was weird. I'm not going to think about that anymore." Because I know people like I have like a lot of weirdo friends, and I have a good amount of normie friends, and I have a lot of normie friends who have had weird experiences. And what they did, they're like, "That happened. I pushed it aside, compartmentalized it somewhere deep in the recesses of my subconscious. I don't want to think of it anymore because I had to go to work on Monday." And I respect that too. And then there's some of us who we have these experiences and they can potentially alter the path of our life. Not always in a negative way, but like oftentimes in a very positive way,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, if I saw Bigfoot, I would be elated. But
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you something. One of the most staunch rationalists I know is my castmate, Jason Henderson, on Castle of Horror. And again, not that I'm not trying to turn this into a plug fist, but it does.
Well, let's do talk about
correlate.
give us a little background on the. 'Cause I was just going to ask you that.
Well, let me finish the story,
Yeah,
because you're going to like this.
please. Yeah.
So Jason, when we were talking, Jason does not believe in anything. He is a staunch rationalist, doesn't believe in ghosts, doesn't believe in Bigfoot, and yet he has a very vivid memory of seeing Bigfoot when he was a child in Oklahoma, staying at his grandmother's farmhouse. And he's like, well, maybe it was a bear, or maybe I was half asleep. Like he rationalizes it, but and he may even get mad at me for talking about this, but I was like, you saw Bigfoot, which is an experience I would kill for.
Yeah.
And well, maybe not kill for, but
figuratively speaking, yeah.
But yeah, man, but he's completely dismissed it as either a misidentified animal, or that he was a little kid and he was dreaming. And and look, maybe that is what happened.
Yeah, for sure. That's a possibility. Or he did see something crazy.
he's completely unopen to the idea that it could possibly have been Bigfoot. So some people, that's just their worldview, and other those of us who are living out here on the fringes, like that's a different kind of thing. But yeah, Castle of Horror. What do you want to know?
I want to know what the show's about. This sounds first off, it's a great title for a podcast, and I don't think I knew about this, and I definitely want to hear it. So please tell me about your podcast.
We have hundreds of episodes. It is a horror and science fiction film review show, usually bi-weekly, although we do take breaks. And we pick topics, like we'll do Ray Harryhausen movies, or Alfred Hitchcock movies, or zombie films, things of that nature. And typically it is, there's been guest hosts over the years, because again, hundreds of episodes. But usually the roundtable discussion is myself, who is a comic book writer, Tony Savaggio, who is a special effects technician and heavy metal singer, and then Jason Henderson, the gentleman I was just referencing, who is a vampire novelist, and his wife Julia, who, first of all, not a horror movie fan, despite having now watched probably thousands of horror movies, but she is an immigration lawyer. So she's sort of the normal one out of us. Although I do start to question how normal she is if she's done this many episodes. But we have got like basically something for every kind of fan. Like for example, we just did Boggy Creek. We've done stuff that is contemporary. We do stuff that's very old. We do stuff that's weird and obscure. We like, for example, we reviewed a movie called Vampire Hookers once. We do animated stuff sometimes. We did Batman versus Dracula like a million years ago. So like if it fits within our framework, we will cover it. And it's basically, is it a horror film or a science fiction film? Then because to us, horror and science fiction are kind of they're kind of tied together. So
they cross over well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So but the name Castle of Horror, originally we were the Castle Dracula podcast, and because the first I guess season, for lack of a better term, we only did vampire movies. And after about 6 months of doing that, we were like, well, let's broaden the palette a little bit. Let's do a zombie film or a haunted house film or something like that. And we ended up doing an episode on Return of the Living Dead, and
I love that movie.
This, yeah, it's great. But we decided we'd change it to the Castle of Horror because it sounds almost like a late 70s, early 80s horror movie fanzine name. Like you could picture
it does.
Yeah. Like you could picture it next to Famous Monsters of Filmland and Fangoria.
Yeah,
on like a
totally.
rack. So, and we've been doing it basically since the Wild West days of podcasting. It's kind of bizarre. And I think, if you go back and you listen to those early episodes, they are rough, man. Like our sound quality.
So were my early episodes too. I was figuring that it's harder than it seems. Like it just gets like, quality sound and all stuff. It's hard.
Well, the first few years I recorded most of them through my cell phone, so I can't even listen to those. But like if you want, they are there, and like just bear with us, and the sound quality gets better. But yeah, next to Halloween, man, it's probably the thing that I am known most for. And in fact, even when I was just at San Diego Comic-Con, I had people coming up and asking me about the podcast, which was very
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was very gratifying. But it's not, it's not meant to be anything other than fun. I've had people describe it as just like four friends sort of waxing philosophic about whatever movie they just watched, and that's kind of not dissimilar to this. It's very conversational.
Yeah, well, I tend to get pulled into those kinds of. I like when friends. I mean, there's I always think the greatest example is my two friends, Jessica Nabick and John Tenney, had this wonderful podcast called "What's Up, Weirdo," and it's literally just emulating like a half-hour phone call that they would have anyway, and that they're recording it, and it's so wonderful. Like it just like and I do love, especially, I mean, like I'm a big fan of friendship, and like even like outside of the friends, I like watching and like listening to people be friends and hearing friend dynamics. It warms my heart and it gives me hope for the world, because like I don't come from a huge family. I come from a very small family. I don't have many cousins, so friends have always been family to me, and like it's like the line's very blurred between friends and family for me, like so Well, I don't know where I'm going off on a weird tangent, but well, I wanted to ask you. First off, this has been so much fun, and I've
Oh,
taken up a lot of your time. But I do want to ask you because I know you're kind of into punk rock culture, and your wife's into punk rock culture, and is a rockabilly musician, which I always feel like. And I might be wrong, but rockabilly, at least in modern times, is kind of an extension of the punk world, maybe, right? Sort of.
You froze up.
Oh, hello? Are you there? Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. I lost you for a second.
Repeat that because you repeat. Yeah, repeat that.
Yeah, we froze up for. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I was thinking that, like, but to me, it sort of seems like the rockabilly world is sort of an extension of the punk world, and that they link up very well. Am I right about that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Although I would say rockabilly's kind of proto-punk. You know, like because like punk rock is sort of very primitive rock and roll, and rockabilly is kind of the same thing. You know, there's some stylistic choices, and I think the musicianship in rockabilly generally is a little bit more applied. You know, but
right.
You know, because like my wife is crazy talented, but
what's the name of her band? I'm so curious.
Her band is called Danger Cakes. Look them up on
name.
Spotify. Danger * Cakes. She sings and she plays upright bass. And
Awesome.
I should also plug her other band. She's in a queergrass band called Brand New Key. So also look them up.
I wonder if she'd be okay with us playing one of her songs at the end of this episode. Ask her.
Sure.
We'll talk off
Absolutely.
The air.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
I love rockabilly music a lot. So
I'm sure she's going to be okay with that. But yeah. You know, I've been into punk rock since seeing for Return of the Living Dead for the first time, because
yes, that's the greatest punk rock movie ever, dude.
Yeah, it introduced me to so much music. And you know, I'm actually wearing a Damned T-shirt right now, and I think
yeah, and that shirt is neat.
Yeah,
sorry, that's a damn song.
I see what you did there.
Pun. That's a punk rock pun.
Yeah, but you know, I just something about the outsider culture of it. You know, it appealed to me. You know, like as an outcast kid, and you know, it goes great with weird. You know, it goes great with comic books. It goes great with horror movies. It goes great with sci-fi and paranormal, and because it's sort of the music of the outcast. And
it is.
Yeah.
Well, even like, you know, it's interesting. It's like I grew up like, I mean, you know, like a lot of the '80s hardcore stuff was before my time, but I've always been into like music that was like 10 years or older than me. But you know, and I'm definitely probably more into like schooled in post-punk, but like as a kid I would get these kind of like local Midwest punk zines, right? And obviously they'd feature a lot of the local Midwest punk bands and like very underground bands, but they would always have like UFO and occult based like stories and a lot of these issues, and some, you know, like JFK conspiracy stuff. But when I was a kid, I maybe was confused by that, and I kind of lumped it all in the same thing. Like, oh, the punk rock world is the music of the paranormal, you know. Like, but these cultures are so linked up. At least they were. I have no idea if they are anymore. They may not be, but in the 80s and 90s, they definitely were.
I think it still is, and I mean, certainly in Austin, there is a tie between, you know, all these you if you are to go to like a big punk show, there's usually vendors that have, you know, horror or you know, paranormal, or you know,
right,
you know, artwork or what have you. You know, and that's actually one of the reasons why I started doing shows, is because I have all this, you know, I've 20 odd years of comic book art that I could turn into like posters and flyers, and you know, it was you know, because like, you know, rock and roll, you know, like, because to me comic books are a very rock and roll art form. You know, it's and it's a, you know, like rock and roll, it's a very uniquely American art form. So
one of our few artistic exports is punk.
Yes, and one of the few things the rest of the world still likes about us.
And the things the rest of the world likes of a boy, that number is dwindling as we speak, my friend.
Every day.
Yeah, I mean, like, as a kid, I remember walking in, like, my older brother would take me to, like, this punk record store in downtown Omaha, and I would just stare at, like, Misfits album covers. They were, like, intoxicating to me. I loved it. It was, like, Tales from the Crypt type art, and even, like, the font of, like, the Misfits, like, like, it was so deeply... I feel like that was the first art that wasn't film that I deeply appreciated, was like punk art. Well, and like the Black Flag covers. I mean, my God, they're gorgeous. You know,
one of the reasons why I even talked to who ended up being my wife for more than just a few minutes, because I'd actually sworn off of dating the night we bumped into each other. You talk about the influence of rock art, but I thought she looked like a coupe. Like a coupe girl, and if you know rock and roll art, so Coop is he's an artist. He has done a lot of very famous, like the thing that you would probably be the most familiar with is he did all these devil girls on
think I know what you're talking about now. Okay, yeah.
He did like posters for like the Reverend Horton Heat and the Lords of Acid, like back in the 90s, and they had these like curvaceous devil girls on them. But they have this like particular, like the way he draws women's faces. And when I saw my wife, I turned around because she tapped me on the back, and when I turned around, I thought she looked like a drawing, a coupe drawing. So like even my taste in women, I guess, has been shaped by rock art.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that, because like I remember when I met my wife, we were both doing Second City and in LA, and I remember like seeing her and I go, oh my God, she looked like she could be in the band Sleater-Kinney, which was very much like my thing. Like I'm an 90s indie rock kid, so I was like, immediately I went up and I'm not like a bold guy, but I went up and talked to her. I was like, oh, I think you need to be my wife. I didn't say that obviously, but I the process of us getting together started immediately when I saw her. I'm like, oh my God, you could be like a guitar player for Sleater-Kinney. Like that was.
I love that.
But it's like almost like the music we like for some of us, and the art we like can really inform our lives in every facet.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating. Oh, Drew, this has been so much fun, man. Like
it has.
You're a legend. Like I'm so excited. Will you please tell the listeners where they can find your comic books and more of your work and your podcast? And obviously, this will all be in the show notes, friends, so you can easily click and find it. But let's just do an audio version.
So on Instagram, which is the main my main form of social media these days, it's Drew_Halloween. It'll have, you'll know it's the right one because there'll be lots of pictures of me. There'll be pictures of comic book art. There'll be pictures of my wife. But also, I want those of you listening to this to pay attention. You should go to your local bookstore or comic book store. Either will work, and say, I want to order Halloween Man Volume 1 from Simon & Schuster and Red 5 Comics. And I also want you to pay attention to Kickstarter, because on November 1st, we are launching a Kickstarter through IPI Comics for the Matron Volume 2. So those are the two projects that I have coming out right now. And everything Castle of Horror you can find through my social media, but you can also listen to it basically anywhere you can listen to a podcast. So we're not hard to find. And it's a deep, deep rabbit hole that you can go down.
Oh, this sounds so fun. And with Halloween season coming around, I'm always looking for new suggestions of, horror movies and old, kind of pulpy horror movie suggestions. So, boy, I'm going to be checking that out, my friend. I'm going to be checking that out. Drew, this has been so much fun, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. We barely even scratched the surface, so I think you're gonna have to come back on, and we're gonna have to do.
I would love that.
A deep dive into Texas weirdness, because weirdly enough, it's one of the states I feel like I know the least about, which is.
You should come to Texas. We'll team up with that Dogman guy, and we'll create a paranormal tour of Texas, and we'll find aliens and dinosaurs and hogzillas and all kinds of things.
there's nothing that sounds better to me in the world. As long as you promise me some breakfast tacos before we hit the road.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, folks, thank you for listening to another episode of High Strangeness. This has been my buddy, Drew Edwards. Folks, enjoy your dinners tonight. Peace. All right.